Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine and welcome back to Scotland for another week. Last week we were at the Old Course Hotel tasting a selection of Johan Rupert's different wines in celebration of the Alfred Dunhill Links Championships. This week we're about 100 yards down the road. This is the pavilion at the tournament and it's a really special place, not just because it's the social heartbeat of the tournament, but because on Saturday night one of the year's great parties takes place right here. With a band that includes everybody from Tico Torres of Bon Jovi to Brian McFadden of Westlife to Ronan Keating to Phoenix from Lincoln Park. It's a remarkable collection of people, all orchestrated by the great Huey Lewis of Huey Lewis and the News. And that party is made all the better because everybody has plenty of South African wine to keep them happy. Now, it's not just Johan Rupert's wines that are on display this week. A number of Johan's good friends also come to the party and display the South African wine that they can lay claim to. And the first of those we'll try is from a very good friend of Johan's and a very good friend of South Africa's, a man we've seen on the show on many occasions, Ernie Els, and in this case, his Sauvignon Blanc. Now, white wine's not something you might automatically associate with Scotland. The weather here is uniformly horrible, and on those few days when you do get a glimpse of sunshine, the locals tend to take most of their clothes off, and there are vast swathes of white Scottish flesh to be seen everywhere. So winter is kind of what you get used to, and in that sense, not unhappily so. But there are cases when some white wine is the way to go, and in particular when you're having one of Scotland's great delicacies, which is salmon. Scottish salmon is revered around the world. They might not have the wine, they do have the salmon, so to make up the combination, we brought the wine over from South Africa to complete a pretty awesome pairing. Again, not a wine you'd associate with Scotland, but a beautiful wine. It's got a really rich, bright, bold nose to it, lots of gooseberries, lots of very, very fresh to it, and then a wine that's going to do great justice to a Scottish salmon. I'd also have a look at the Big Easy Shannon, which I think would cut into that richness of the salmon really well, but this will do the job perfectly. It's more than just a light summer wine. It's a wine with some substance, it's a wine with some fruit to it, and it's a lovely start. Ernie Els is a big fan of this. Not hard to see why. Now, from one large South African sportsman to another, in this case even larger, the man with the biggest hands on the planet. Skalkberger, the former Springbok, father of Skalkberger, the until recently Springbok, father of Skalkberger, his youngest son. There have been Skalks for generations and generations and generations, and those most recent generations have not just been revelling in rugby glory, they've also been making some very good wine indeed. I bumped into Skalk earlier. He's a monster of a man, has the largest hands in the world, and those hands like nothing more than to get themselves around a bottle of wine, in particular Skalk's own. And it's this wine that he said I really did need to have a go at. It is his pinotage. It's a wine he's really proud of. He loves the South African element of it, but he also loves what he and his team are doing with pinotage at the moment. Now, I'm not going to tell Skalk in person I don't like it, but on camera I'll be a little more honest. Last week I spoke a bit about the importance of colour and the visual allure. This ticks a similar box. It looks like a really strong, deep cherry red wine, and that comes through when you drink it. It's got those tones, those natural tones that do come through in pinotage, but there's a lovely softness to it. There's a little velvety veneer to it. Skalk's hands might be the size of dinner plates, but there's clearly a delicacy that comes through in the wine that he lends the skills of both himself and his wine team to. He really likes this wine. I think if somebody Skalkberger's size told you to enjoy a wine, you would, but I can say with no fear of contradicting the big man that this is a really nice example of pinotage. They're making some beautiful wine in Wellington. It's an area that's not overly expensive. It's a very blue-collar part of the winemaking world, and what Skalk's doing with his pinotage in particular speaks to that exactly. Then to another good friend of this particular tournament, good friend of mine, and somebody who's got his own golf tournament back in South Africa, the Dimension Data Pro-Am. Jeremy Ord is the man who, together with Kevin Arnold, owns the Waterford estate. It's a beautiful estate to go and visit in Stellenbosch. I send a lot of friends out there. The chocolate tasting is exquisite, but it's the wine that really is the flagship, and Kevin is masterful at what he does. And they've got a couple of different labels. There's lots of really nice wine to play around with. The Kevin Arnold Shiraz is probably my wife's favourite wine. She can drink vast amounts of it quite cheerfully and hold it considerably better than I can. But this Waterford Cabernet Sauvignon is another terrific example of what comes out of one of the iconic estates of the Stellenbosch area. There's a lot of sporting interest through Waterford. Jeremy, also the man behind the Dimension Data Tour de France team, he has a particular passion for golf though, and when combined with his passion for wine, no surprises to find him here at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. Over the last year or so, probably slightly longer, if you've watched the show, you'll know that I've become mildly obsessed with Pinot Noir. I've probably been obsessed with Pinot Noir for some time, to be honest, and I do love it. But there is something about a Cabernet Sauvignon, when it's made right, that just speaks to the wine lover in all of us. It's the richness, it's the royal feeling of both the grape and what's become of it once it's been made in the manner that this particular one has. Because Kevin Arnold has taken this Cabernet Sauvignon haul and turned it into something magnificent, which is not surprising. He's celebrated, and rightly so, for the work that he does. But even in that context, this is quite delightful. It's the Ord and Arnold combination, and it's a Cabernet Sauvignon that's everything right about Cabernet Sauvignon. It's big, it's strong, it's glorious, it's lovely to drink. The only possible query is that at 2014 you could leave it for a bit longer, and once you have, bring it back out again and use it to do battle with the Scottish winds outside. Warming bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon versus the Scottish winter. It's a good battle, and one I'm happy to be part of. And then on to something that just by looking at it you can see that must cost a bit of money. If it's in its own private wooden box that's been carefully engraved and has stickers to make sure that it's nicely sealed, it's not going to be an entry-level bottle. And this most certainly is not. This is the 1694 from Vrede. Jean Engelbrecht is somebody else who's done so much in the wine industry in South Africa over such a long period of time, and also somebody who is a good friend of Johan Rupert's and a good friend of many of the people who find themselves at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championships. And he's somebody who has created so much wine that has been celebrated not just in South Africa but right around the world. Now, this is not a bottle that you're going to buy every single day. Even if you're on the pound, as we are at the moment here in Scotland, it's not inexpensive. This is about 1,500 rands, so not much change from £100 for a bottle of wine. That means it's got to be something that's pretty decent, but if you know anything about the 1694, if you've read about it, it is a wine that is revered for the quality of it, the rarity of it, they don't make a huge amount, and for having Mr. Engelbrecht's signature, having put a great deal of personal time and inspiration into creating something unforgettable. The 1694 of the name refers to the 12th of March 1694, when the Governor of the Cape officially granted Vrede, and so there is plenty of history. The history of Jean Engelbrecht making wine might not quite stretch back to 1694, but it stretches back long enough for him to have an extraordinary track record, and it's a track record that has led to this, the flagship. They only made less than 5,000 bottles of this, so not much at all, and it's not one you're going to be drinking every single day given the price, even if you are on pounds living in Scotland or the like. But when you can get hold of it, you're in for an absolute treat. This is standing up against anything we have as a red blend in South Africa. Not just the boldness, not just the strength, not just the luxury of it all, but just the craft that's gone into it. You can taste that it's a really, really special red blend, and it's one that Jean Engelbrecht is rightly proud of. He's done a terrific job here. It's on show at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championships. There are plenty of celebrities around this week, plenty of big names, plenty of extremely famous people, but this Ruston Vrede at 1694 will catch as many eyes as any of those big name celebrities who are here this week. And that's great for South Africa, as is the presence of all of these wines today, all of the wines across the course of this week, doing what South African wine I think does best when it's overseas, showing the rest of the world that we make wine as well as anybody. Cheers.